the woodchuck. I'm going to be putting knock points on the end of these shafts so that the knock, that's a boning classic knock, will fit right on the end. Here you go, Mindy, my lovely assistant. Okay, right here. So these are going to have to fit on here at some point, but I need to do this so that I can get it through the gasket lacquer. When you pull it through the gasket seal, they need to be tapered also for that reason. So I'm doing some right now, and I've already weighed these arrows. I've spined them, and they're within 2 pounds of each other for spine weight. And I even balanced them to see which end's heavier. Got the heavier, got a mark on the side with that's heavier, putting the knock on the back side. This is how this thing works. Can you get a close up of this? It's got a little stopper here, a little metal stopper that'll stop when you get far enough. It won't go any further. So it's the right angle and everything. This one here is for the knocks. This groove here is for the points. It's a different angle. Also, when the time comes for me to glue these knocks on, there's a little, can you see that little edge on this knock? There's a little kind of a burr on one side but not the other. That burr is the side you put the, they call it the cock feather, that goes, if you're right-handed it goes to the left or wherever you want it to go, but usually the left. And then the let's see if I can find an arrow that'll show this. What I'm going to look for, the here it goes. Can you see this part right here? If you focus it, does it get? That's called a chevron. I like to call those chevrons. They feather off to a point. They're on both sides of the arrows. There's another one. There's another one. Okay, so those chevrons, here's a good one, good example of a chevron. Usually there's several of them. They, when the arrow's laying on the rest, they need to be this direction. Is that right? Let me think if I said that right. No, that's not right. The chevrons need to be up and down, sorry. The chevrons need to be up and down so that the grain runs horizontal. And then you put your knock on so that when you're stringing, when the knock is on the bow, your grain is running flat this way, and so the chevrons are up and down. And that's how that works. And that's the way I spined them as well. So if you don't have the woodchuck tapering tool like the other one I was using, you can buy the accurate taper tool from any of the traditional archery suppliers. This one has 2 different ports here for the 2 different beveled tapers, I should say. And these are a lot cheaper, but the thing about these is that they get dull. You gotta buy another one. But this is a much cheaper alternative to what I was doing earlier with the machine. Took it right down to a point. Point's usually too long. Sometimes you gotta nip a little bit off the end of these. A lot rougher, not quite as smooth, but that's like I say, this one's getting dull. And then when it's time to do the other end, you can flip it over and do the one for the point. So pretty good. They still work. It's a good little tool. This takes us to the point where now we're ready to start dipping these shafts, doing a gasket lacquer. Okay, what we have here is Rose City Red shaft and crown dip lacquer. I'm not going to do red though. I'm going to do, it's called Arctic. What's called? Let's see. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Anyways, it's Arctic White, I believe is what it's called. Here's the gasket that I got. Here's a homemade gasket I used. This one served me for quite a while. What I did is I used a mason jar ring with a, that's also metal there, and I cut, you see I cut that out and I glued rubber off of an inner tube and used a hole punch, like a paper punch, to make the hole. The hole has to be perfect because you're going to be pulling the shafts through these. So this one's brand new. I've never tried it before. And here's the setup. There's a dozen shafts. The paint is already in the Arctic White paint is already in the tube. And my lovely assistant, give me a hand here. There you go. So this is a lacquer paint. And the good thing about this is that you need to do lots of coats. Lacquer is really good stuff. So that's why I put the tip. Yeah, there we go. I'm going to get it started. Try to get it in there and kind of get it primed. This is awful thin lacquer. Don't want to stop. There's one. Lacquer's quick drying, but they say by the time you do all of these, it should be dry. You just, by the time you do the 12 arrows, you just start over with the one that you first started with to do the second coat. Just keep on doing that. You don't need to sand in between coats because lacquer reactivates itself. Been going on YouTube watching videos of people paint arrows, and it's pretty funny. Everybody wants to reinvent the wheel for some reason. This is what's been working for a long time. Probably since the 50s. And for some reason, people want to make it really difficult and want to use all kinds of weird things. Weird paints, water base, oil base, on an oil base, and different stains and things. And it's like, look, just stick with one thing. Do an oil base, like if you're going to do a stain and just do a crown paint on the crown of the arrow, then stick with oil base. Don't be moving around from oil to water. And people are saying, oh, I like using varathanes and different things like that. Urethane, varathane. What's the point? Just buy lacquer. It's been working for a long time. It's waterproof. Put on several coats. That's what you want. It's fast, like I say, it's really quick drying. The first one I did is already dry, you can tell. So that's about it. The next thing we're going to do after this is I will glue the nocks on, and I will do a bare shaft testing. We'll actually shoot some arrows and figure out the length I need for my bow. But almost all ready for the second coat. I almost went through all the way. I'll probably put on like 6 or 7 coats. So that's it till the next video. This is Snow Walker. May your arrows fly true.